Welcome to Good Grief, the podcast where resilience meets reality. I'm your host, Dr. Christine Malone. In this podcast, we delve deep into the stories of individuals who've triumphed over tragedy, adversity, and trauma. In every episode, we bring you raw and honest narratives from guests who faced life's most challenging moments head on. Through candid conversations, they share their journeys of resilience, shedding light on the strategies, mindset shifts, and support systems that empowered them to rise above their darkest hours. Join us as we explore the profound depths of human resilience and discover how, even in the face of life's toughest trials, there can be light, growth, and yes, good grief. Okay, listeners, thanks so much for joining me for this episode. My guest today is Kim Cantin. She is a 5-time award-winning book author of Where Yellow Flowers Bloom. It's a powerful testament to love, loss, and the strength of the human spirit. In the book, she shares her deeply personal journey through grief intuition and the unwavering support of her community after the Montecito mudslide in California claimed the lives of her husband, David, and their son, Jack, in 2018. So, Kim, thank you so much for joining me. If there's anything else you want to tell us about yourself, or we can talk about your husband and your son, wherever you'd like to start.
Thank you. And thank you for having me. Yeah. So life definitely pivoted in 2018. Prior to that, I was kind of living the dream in part of California that was near the ocean and had a beautiful range of mountains. And my 2 kids were doing great in school, had a goofy dog, an Irish setter dog who was just joyful, and a fabulous husband. And, we went to sleep one night and they were predicting heavy rain, and we woke up with the heavy rain, and we had our cars staged to get out. We weren't in mandatory evacuation, but we didn't get out in time before, the mountain kind of came down, and it was about a 30-foot wave that plumed up as it came around in the creek. It didn't make the corner of the creek because boulders had come down from the mountain. There had been a big wildfire. In fact, it was at the time the largest wildfire in California history, called the Thomas Fire. And so it took all the foliage off the mountains. So it left kind of a slick, plasticky kind of sediment. So when heavy rain came, the boulders weren't being held in by the roots of plants, and they came roaring down, and these boulders were the size of cars. And they jammed up the underpass, and it plumed up to a 30-foot wave of mud and debris and downed 100-year-old trees, and it crashed down about 3:30 in the morning on our family home with my family in it, and obliterated it. There wasn't even much rebar left in the pool. And sadly, my husband perished. He washed away. The one street became a river. I think the tree line was about 18 feet high, and he was found down by the beach. My late son, Jack, who was 17, he was in probably his room getting his computer to leave. He perished, and the sad news was there was 23 people that died that night, and 2 of them were considered missing. They couldn't find their bodies, and my son was one of them. There was a beautiful 2-year-old little girl, Lydia, and my son, Jack, and my daughter, who was 14. She was buried alive under 20 feet of mud, with a pocket of air about the size of a volleyball, with just a little tiny hole the size of a straw out to the outside. And she was buried alive 6 hours, but when they found her, it took about 2 hours to get out. The book I wrote, she details what her experience was in that. And so does her rescuer, Andy, who got the Medal of Valor for what he did trying to save her life. So overnight, my family of 4 was a family of 2. My daughter and I, and we were both severely injured. I washed away about 2 football fields, and I was found in an intersection on a debris pile wrapped in electrical wires, severely injured. And so I spent about a month in the hospital, had to do rehab, learn to walk again. So it was something that, I think with all of us, life will pivot, right? In ways, good ways and bad ways, as we navigate life. And this was a really bad way that was unexpected. So life pivoted, and then, worked to heal and be there for my daughter. And then I started writing a book, and that was very, very cathartic for me, that I didn't realize would be.
Yes. How old was your daughter when this happened?
She was 14.
2014. And oh, I can't even fathom the terror that had to be for her to be buried alive. I
She
can't even.
was fully conscious. See, I think I got knocked out. I was conscious some of the mudslide, and then I got knocked out, which was, I think, a blessing. She was conscious the whole time, and she would push on. She writes about her experience, and then in the audio book, she asked to read her part about being buried alive and what it was like. Um, and it's pretty daunting. She's the strongest human I know, I think.
Yeah, I can't even imagine. Do either of you have any permanent injuries? I mean, obviously not psychological, I mean physical permanent injuries.
Well, we got pretty darn banged up, so I can tell you my knees and my hips certainly are never going to be the same. And I continue to work really hard, scars and everything, and all the emotional, it's of what you experienced. And she was injured as well. So I think parts of her body won't be the same either. But yeah,
From such a young
but
age.
we're working. We work daily toward health.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. That, and I think you probably rely on one another for the whole, having had the same experience and then the same loss and grief of the family members.
Yeah.
Very, very helpful for you to have one another in that situation.
Yeah, I mean, because we have the unique experience of our shared experience as a family, right? A family of four, the unique experience of the event, and the shared experience of trying to heal after, right? And so, um, you know, there's a depth there that I don't wish what I happened to me on anyone, but there's a certain depth there that is pretty special.
Yeah, no, I understand that. So losing both your husband and your son in the same event. I mean, I shared with you before we started recording, I have lost a spouse, I've lost a son, but in the same traumatic event, I can't even imagine how you have to not only grieve for yourself and what you've lost, but then you've got your daughter that you're helping, and you've lost like I said, half of your family all in one awful event. So I would imagine that was compounded quite a bit because of multiple family members and your daughter and the physical issues that you went through and so on. So
Yeah.
yeah, I just can't even imagine, but that's just awful. I'm curious to know. So I also shared with you that we had an event up here in Washington State just a few years before, and where a mudslide took the lives of 43 people. And there was a lot of controversy over whether the city or the state should have known that this was a possibility due to, maybe the embankment wasn't surveyed correctly or whatever. Was there any of that with your event where the state was kind of looked at? Why didn't you know? Why didn't you see it coming? How did you not?
Look, I'm sure, it was such a devastating event, right? It went over 30 square miles.
Oh my gosh.
Cars were up in trees. I think it was 62 homes were destroyed. Another 150 were damaged. 23 people died. You can bet your bottom dollar that there was a lot of questions about, the genesis and how do we make this not happen again and everything, because no one wants this to happen again. I mean, it was terrible.
And that's always where my brain goes when something horrible like that happens. You can't take it back. You can't bring the people back. But how can we look to see that this does not happen again to another family, another person, another whatever it might be?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
We'd like to know. I mean, in any event, whether it's
Yeah.
horrible event like this or malpractice or whatever, how can we make it so that this has not happened? Tell me where the title of your book comes from. It's Where Yellow Flowers Bloom. So where did that come from?
You know what? The Where Yellow Flowers Bloom, actually, I give credit to my daughter for helping me with the name. I had written the book and we're thinking of names. One was called like Finding Jack. Another one was Pieces of Me, just thinking one. And we searched for, Jack and baby Lydia were missing. And I had a real visceral feeling that he did not go to the ocean and that he was out there. And it was just chaos and there was piles everywhere. And, you'd listen to the dog handlers and they're like, we couldn't search that pile because it was too wet and like quicksand. It was too dangerous for the dogs. And we didn't search that pile. We tried this one. And, you'd go out and, in 5 minutes, you'd find, my husband's scout shorts, or you'd find, a nightgown of mine, spread. It was like, talk about airing your dirty laundry. It was all over. all over. And so we searched, and it was about a 3-year process. The book details everything that happened, but at the end, we found some of the remains. And because so many houses were destroyed, right? You think about people's garages with their paints and their paint thinners and their pesticides and their plumbing and all that stuff. The soil was deemed very toxic, and the university team was helping. An anthropology team was helping, and the biologic archaeologist said, nothing really should grow in the soil. It's got arsenic. It's got all the bad germs that you don't want to get, right? But the pile that we found some of Jack on was graced by beautiful wild yellow flowers.
Oh,
And it was really a metaphor of nothing should grow there, and life found a way. And that's what the students picked some of these flowers for me, and the university team found some of the bone, and they clipped some of the flowers for me, and they said life found a way, and I said no, actually love found a way. It was just a miracle that we found them over 30 square miles. It was a needle in the haystack, and so I think the flowers for me really represent, it was beautiful, right? To see these beautiful yellow flowers where you wouldn't think beauty could ever be. And I think that just challenges me to look for the beauty in even unexpected places, because it will be there.
yeah. I share with you also that the color yellow is one for me too, because it reminds me of my son that passed away. So it gave me chills when you were explaining about the yellow flowers growing there. That was amazing. So what was it that inspired you to write the book? You wanted to share the story. You thought it would be cathartic for yourself, for your daughter. What were you thinking when you?
Thanks for asking. It was it was the start of COVID, and we were, Lauren and I, in a house and we weren't going anywhere because they said, stay in the house. And I just realized, I wanted to get some of the facts down of what happened for my future grandkids if I'm lucky enough to have them. And I knew my memory over time is going to forget some of the details. So I said, I'm just going to write and just make sure I have it down so that my future family can read what happened to us. And so I started writing, and then writing and writing. And it was through the process that was more just a personal process for me that I realized, I said, oh my gosh, I saw myself at the beginning of the book in more desperate grief, right? The initial what happened. And then toward the end of a more peaceful acceptance, and all the things that had happened in between, and some of the silver lining that I was witness to. And I said, I think this might help other people who are going through a tough time. If it's not a traumatic death like mine, or just a tough time, I think we can, if we put one foot in front of another, right? Life can go on. And, do I miss my husband and son and my dog every day? Absolutely. Absolutely. And the and conversation, I'm hopeful and positive as I look at life moving forward for me and my daughter. There's a lot of living to do. And we're blessed with being able to.
Yeah. Maybe you've already heard from people that have read your book, but what do you hope readers would take away from your story? What's the lesson or lessons to be learned?
So there's a couple. One is the power of community in helping people heal. There were so many people that came out because everyone knew that Jack was missing, and Jack was a beloved kid. He was an Eagle Scout. He was, people liked him at the high school. He was funny. He was a computer gamer. And they were just so sad that this kid who had done a lot of community service in town was gone, right? And they wanted to find him. So we were surprised at how many people in the community who we didn't even know came out to help us, and strangers would try to help us. And there was so much healing in that. And I think the lesson is, for me, is no act of kindness will go unnoticed. That there's a real power in it. For me, that the actual community, and I had a core team that went with me for 3 years. So if I said to you, it's 2025 right now, do you think you could go out with me every 2 weeks till 2028 and look for my missing son? Most people would say no. And there's there's people said yes, and they did.
Mm-hmm.
And just, it was stunning to see the human kindness and the impact. And then another key learning that I will take with me from the experience was, we were looking for about 3 years, right? And at about 2.5 years, we go, and there were piles all over, but they were now being, taken down, and it was starting to look a little bit more back to normal, I guess. And we were out one day, and we came up with nothing again. And so I left, had to go pick Lauren up at school, and feeling kind of dejected. And two of the people on my Sacred Search team, Anne and Sherry. Anne was a general contractor who came out with her Caterpillar, and Sherry had lost her house too. And she came to help, just to help. It was healing for her. And as I left, I think Anne said to Sherry, or Sherry said to Anne, it doesn't matter. They look around, they don't see many piles. And they're like, when do we know we're going to be done here? Right? And the other one said to her, when Kim says we're done. And what was so profound about that is they were willing to be on my grief journey as long as I needed them. They didn't say, get over it, move on, we're done. They were open-hearted enough and compassionate enough to say, I'm going to stay with her until she thinks we're done. And that will stay with me. So if I know someone who's experiencing grief now, it's not on my timeline. It's on their timeline. That's the biggest gift you can give them, is have the empathy and compassion on their timeline. Because everyone's timeline's different. Some is quicker, some is slower, some is painfully slower. That's okay. Everyone's different.
Yeah. What a great message that is. And again, I mean, you said the one person also lost her house, but the whole healing for the community is part of it too. It's like, these are my people, these are my community, these are people that I know, so on and so forth.
And it was a community tragedy. It wasn't just a Kim Cantin tragedy. 23 people, multiple families were impacted. Some people lost their jobs because of it. Other people lost their house. Everyone it was a community tragedy, and the community mourned all the people, not just my family, all the people who we lost that night.
Yeah, that's amazing. So, first of all, how's your daughter doing today? Is she doing well? I mean, you mentioned she's got a couple of physical things, but how's she doing emotionally with dealing with this?
She's, the strongest gal I know. She's a student at college, and if you met her, she'd be cheerful and enjoying some of the college stuff. She's got a lot of work to still do, of her trauma, but she just every day amazes me just about how strong and resilient and thirsty to enjoy life.
Yep.
Thirsty to enjoy life. And, I think since her and I skated death, right? We were milliseconds away from death almost. We didn't have to go then. Mm-hmm. And so how can we make the best of the time that we still have?
Yeah. I like to think that is, you still have a purpose, is my thinking on that. There's still some purpose for you to be here and something for you.
Yeah.
Which leads me to my next question is what's next for you? What are you planning to do next? Another book? Are you?
I am starting my next book. It's all a little bit more on the moving forward, didn't expect someone my age to be, a single woman. Right. And how do you move forward in that? Some of the funny stories that come with it, and the not so funny stories that come with it, or, just how life moves. And I'm doing speaking engagements. And like for the book, I didn't do it to make money. I mean, it's not that. I just really hope it lands in the hands of the people that it will help. Frankl's book, right? The Purpose of Life, is about, if there is some kind of bad experience, tragedy, whatever, putting purpose and meaning to it is sometimes a good thing to do. So the book helped me do that. So I'm speaking on resilience and everything in different forums. I'm on a couple boards, so I, kind of do a little bit of that kind of work as well. One of the boards is on organ donation that saves lives, right? If people opt to donate, I think one donor can maybe save up to 5 lives, and all the families that's impacted, that's meaningful for me.
Yeah. That's fantastic. That's amazing. You are a very strong person in and of yourself. So I appreciate all the work you're doing to help other people. We will link in the podcast notes a link so people can find your book, so they can
Thank you.
read your story as well. Anything else you'd like to share before we end today?
No, if they are looking at the book, it's on Amazon, and then if they prefer to listen to it in the Audible, Lauren does read her part, so that makes it quite interesting. I didn't realize how interesting it would be because I narrated it, and then she's like, "Mom, I want to pop in and read my part about being buried alive and her experience." And when I was going through the process of doing that, I was like, "That's pretty interesting, to hear her come in and tell her story." So yeah, so those are very easy places to get it, either on Audible or on Amazon.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for sharing with us today. I've greatly appreciated it. It has been a joy to talk to you.
Thank you. Be well.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Good Grief. We hope that stories shared today have inspired and empowered you on your own journey of resilience. If you want to dive deeper into the themes of trauma, tragedy, and survival, be sure to check out my memoir, The Day I Became the Spider Killer, a memoir of trauma, tragedy, and survival. In this book, I shared my own raw and honest experiences, offering insights and strategies for overcoming life's toughest challenges. You can purchase the book on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, or listen to it on Audible. Your support helps us continue to bring these powerful stories to light and spread a message of hope and resilience. Stay tuned for more incredible stories on our next episode. Until then, remember, even in the face of life's toughest trials, there can be light, growth, and good grief.